Hey guys, so after my last video of a true horror story, I wanted to shift focus to an actual topic for this video. If you haven't seen that video, it is my first, and I would appreciate it if you checked it out. But now on to this video. So, something that always intrigued me as both a horror lover and a film lover is some of the history and legends that surround some movies in Hollywood. Today we're going to be diving a little bit into a so-called curse that plagued one particular movie in the 80s. As you no doubt have already seen from the title, we will be taking a look at the so-called Poltergeist Curse. It's surrounded around the film Poltergeist, which was released in 1982, and its subsequent sequels. For those of you who don't know, Poltergeist is a cult classic horror film released in 1982, produced by Steven Spielberg and directed by Tobe Hooper. It's a film about a family that encounters a poltergeist invading their home. Now, whether you believe in the paranormal or not, everything I'm about to talk about is true. The inferences I make or you make based on the information is just that, inferences. But this doesn't change the facts. Now, during the making of the film, there was one thing that some people think kick-started this haunting. In the film, there is a scene that includes skeletons. A lot of the cast didn't actually know this, but they were actually real skeletons. Because of the cost that building fake skeletons had, Hooper opted to just use real bones from real dead people. This has been a controversy for quite some time, as it not only is from real people, but it could be seen as disturbing the dead and in poor taste. One of the most important things to note here, though, is that some believe that the handling of real skeletons on set is what started the whole thing, some people even saying that they tempted fate. It would only come out later to most of the people on the film that they were actually real. In an interview with TV Land, Jo Beth Williams, who played Diane in the film, said this: "In my innocence and naivety, I assumed that these were not real skeletons. I assumed that they were prop skeletons made out of plastic or rubber. I found out, as did the crew, that they were using real skeletons because it's far too expensive to make fake skeletons out of rubber." Because of these skeletons, if we fast forward a bit to the filming of Poltergeist 2, then we see Will Sampson, who played Taylor in the follow-up, was so concerned about the fact that real skeletons were used in the previous film that he wanted to perform an exorcism on the set, just to make sure it was all safe. Of course, in reality, exorcisms can only be done by approval of the church, so the fact that he said he did it overnight when no one was there is kinda sus, but it did actually make the cast feel better. Back to the curse, though, the most interesting part of the Poltergeist behind-the-scenes lore is that many of the cast members ended up dying. Some people attribute this to the real skeletons, saying it poked the devil. Others say it's a true curse just because of the nature of the film. The first one to note is Dominique Dunne. In 1982, shortly after the film's release, Dunne was strangled by her ex-boyfriend. She then died 5 days later after being taken off life support. Her killer was convicted of manslaughter and served 6 years in prison. Probably the saddest death is the one of Heather O'Rourke, who played the youngest daughter, Carol Ann. Around the end of filming Poltergeist 3, O'Rourke would fall ill to an unknown disease at the time. Even in the film, you can see there are scenes where a double had to fill in for her to finish the last bit of filming. Before Poltergeist 3 even released, she would be rushed to the hospital where she would eventually die of cardiac arrest and septic shock from her undiagnosed Crohn's disease. She was 12 years old. Julian Beck, who played Kane in Poltergeist 2, ended up dying from stomach cancer at age 60. It is worth noting here, though, that he was already diagnosed at the time of accepting his role. Will Sampson ended up dying from malnutrition and post-operative kidney failure. He was 53. Even years later, the curse was still making its way through the cast. In 2009, Lou Perryman, who played Pugsley in the original, was murdered by an ex-convict with an axe. He was killed in his own home at age 67. Something that is definitely worth celebrating is that Richard Lawson, who played Ryan, was nearly taken by this curse, but luckily was not. In 1992, while on an airplane, his flight would crash in Flushing Bay. He thankfully survived. Unfortunately, though, 27 out of the 51 people on board were not as lucky. Now, this isn't the only Hollywood curse story, and it certainly won't be the last, but what's interesting is that this is one of the few cases where it wasn't promoted as such for the film. A lot of horror films, especially these days, would ham this up. An example most recently and most notably would be The Conjuring 2 and The Nun, hamming up the idea that it was cursed before they even started filming, even going so far as to get an actual priest to bless the set and throw holy water on it. Now, if I can just throw my 2 cents in here, I would like to say that this isn't really a curse, in my eyes. I'm not saying it isn't possible, because I do believe in spirits and demons and the ability that can happen, but to me, it just seems to be a coincidence. I'm not going to knock anyone that does think it, though, because it certainly is possible. But if we look at the facts, then to me, they spell out just a big coincidence. Real skeletons, the Kickstarter of the story, were used because of budgetary constraints. I personally wouldn't agree with using real bones, but nevertheless. Heather O'Rourke died because of the lack of attention she received on set. It's been said by many people there that she would complain about not feeling well, stomach aches, headaches, and even being lightheaded. But I'm sure they all just chalked it up to her being a kid and being tired of acting in the scenes. So they ignored her symptoms and they eventually got worse. It's sad, but it's true. Dominique Dunn was killed by a jealous and abusive ex-boyfriend, something that is unfortunately very typical. Lou Perryman was killed by a recently released ex-con. It's worthy to note that a lot of ex-cons end up recommitting. Will Sampson died from complications from surgery for the most part. And the most telling is that Julian Beck died of stomach cancer that he knew he had before even taking the part. It was cancer, and it was 1982. The sad truth is that he had his death sentence well before he was even in the movie. I am interested in, however, what you guys think. Do you guys think that this truly is a curse, or do you think that it's just a big coincidence? I'd love to see in the comments what you guys think. And if you guys like this video, then please leave a like on it, and don't forget to subscribe for more content. I'll catch you guys next time.